September 11, 1893. The unknown monk from India, Swami Vivekananda, rose to the platform of the Parliament of Religions, a part of the great Words Columbian Exposition in Chicago. His opening words seem aptly to the point when he said, "Sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant fanaticism have possessed long this beautiful earth. It has filled the earth with violence, drenched it often with human gore, destroyed civilizations, and sent whole nations in despair. As the different streams, having their sources in different places, all mingle their water in the sea, O Lord, so the different paths which men take through different tendencies, various though they appear, crooked or straight, all lead to Thee." The Parliament brought for the first time in history the representatives of the world's great religions together in one place. Vivekananda became the undisputed hero of the Parliament and hereby introduced for the first time in history the ancient knowledge of the Indian race to the modern world. By introducing his views on cosmology and Vedanta, Vivekananda faced enormous opposition from different quarters. But his enormous success and popularity showed that most people were accepting his words, and after the Parliament of Religions, he remained in the West till 1898 and again between 1899 and 1900. During this period, Vivekananda set out his doctrine of Vedanta in great detail. Intensely practical, yet profound, the Vedantic message was the necessary fusion between the spiritual urge in every man and the use of his intellect. By giving this knowledge to the world, Vivekananda has redefined the meaning of religion. He gives mankind an ideal and a tool to control its own growth and liberation, since freedom is our true nature. Always discriminate between the real and the unreal, and devote yourself heart and soul to the attempt to realize the Atman. Always think that this body is only an inert instrument, and the self-contained Purusha within is your real nature. Always try to get absorbed in the eternally present Atman. Let every man and woman and child, without respect of caste or birth, weakness or strength, hear and learn that behind the strong and the weak, behind the high and the low, behind everyone, there is that infinite soul, assuring the infinite possibility and the infinite capacity of all to become great and good, of an infinite sea of mind. Do not be limited to this consciousness. Look not for truth in any religion. It is here, in the human soul, the miracle of all miracles. In the human soul, the emporium of all knowledge, in the mind of all existence. Seek here. Do not identify yourself with anything. Hold your mind free. All this that you see, the pains and miseries, are but the necessary conditions of this world. Poverty and wealth and happiness are but momentary. They do not belong to our real nature at all. You must take off your mind from lust and lucre, must discriminate always between the real and the unreal, must settle down into the mood of bodilessness with the brooding thought that you are not this body, and must always have the realization that you are the all-pervading Atman. You must end where you begin, and as you began in God, you must go back to God.
Does India have something to contribute to the crisis that is facing humanity? The great monk, Swami Vivekananda, roared the message of the fundamental spiritual unity of life on September 11th, 1893, in the Parliament of Religions in Chicago, precisely to answer these questions.
Sisters and brothers of America.
These loving words were enough to captivate everyone. Vivekananda once said,
I have a message to the West as Buddha had a message to the East. I shall not cease to work. I shall inspire men everywhere until the world shall know that it is one with God.
Who was this man? How did he reach the shores of America, Europe, and so many countries around the world? Let us embark upon this journey, a tale that begins in the outskirts of Calcutta.
By age 8, he was in second standard, attending the Metropolitan Institute of Pandit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. However, studying was hardly something Naren had to spend a lot of time in, so he spent much of his time in other activities. Occasionally, he would gaze off into space, drifting seemingly into some other world, and would proclaim by reading his own palms that he was destined to become a monk. He had a spirit of adventure and fearlessness, and once spent many hours on a tree to prove that no ghost existed in it, as an old man nearby had told him. He later said,
Do not believe a thing because you have read it in a book. Do not believe a thing because another has said it is so. Find out the truth for yourself. That is realization.
Completing college, he was drawn back to Ramakrishna and grew tremendously under his guide. His spiritual training went on for over 4 years and included fun and frolic, as well as intense discussions and teachings of Vedanta, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. By 1885, Sri Ramakrishna was tragically diagnosed with throat cancer, and everyone knew that his end was not far away. Naren's meditation intensified at this time, and just before Sri Ramakrishna's passing, Naren had his first experience of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the total dissolution of oneself into the Brahman or Supreme Divinity. Just before passing away, Sri Ramakrishna passed out saffron robes for all disciples and established Naren as the next head of the Ramakrishna order. Although all the disciples were in deep mourning when Sri Ramakrishna passed away in 1886, they knew that they had been extraordinarily fortunate to have partaken in his life and teaching. By 1887, Naren and the remaining disciples established a mutt or monastery at Baranagar near Calcutta. In 1888, Swamiji began to travel across various parts of India. During his visit to Rajasthan, he met Mangal Singh, a local king who firmly believed that worshipping a stone or an idol was foolish. Swamiji knew that there was no way to intellectually convince him otherwise, so he asked the king's minister to take a picture of the king that was hanging on the wall and spit on it. The minister was shocked by the suggestion and immediately refused to do so. Vivekananda said to the king,
See, Your Highness, though this is not you in one sense, in another sense it is you. One glance at it makes them see you in it. Thus it also is with the devotees who worship stone images of gods and goddesses.
This was the bold and direct way of Swamiji that brought a change in everyone he met. It was here in Rajasthan that Swamiji met the Raja of Khetri, who gave him the name Vivekananda. Afterwards, he visited Gujarat and traveled through many parts of South India as well. During his journey, he had seen in great depth the kind of poverty, hunger, and degeneration of our ancient Hindu practices all over India. He eventually reached the shores of Kanyakumari, where in frustration, he dove into the water and swam to a large rock, where he meditated for 3 days. Why had India reached this state? In his meditation, he realized,
India shall rise only through a renewal and restoration of that highest spiritual consciousness that has made her at all times the cradle of nations.
He knew that this could only be done, however, by inculcating a spirit of service and by uplifting India's downtrodden masses. But how could he take this message to everyone? In this moment of calling, he looked out to the ocean and realized he would have to go to the west to spread the message of Vedanta. On May 31st, 1893, with the help of money collected by the Raja of Khetri and other disciples, Swami Vivekananda set sail for America by ship. After passing through East Asia, the ship eventually landed at a port in Vancouver. From there, he took a train to Chicago. As the American people were unaccustomed to seeing Hindu monks in saffron clothing, he was mocked and discriminated against by the local populace on several occasions. The Parliament of Religions was held in Chicago from September 11 to September 27, 1893. It included representation from various Christian denominations. Swamiji finally came forth to speak. He gazed at the audience for a moment and began,
Sisters and brothers of America.
Just with that, the whole audience rose up, shouting their applause. After a full 2 minutes, Vivekananda continued,
As the different streams, having their sources in different places, all mingle their water in the sea, so, O Lord, the different paths which men take, through different tendencies, various though they may appear, crooked or straight, all lead to Thee.
Later on during the Parliament, he said,
The Hindu refuses to call you sinners. Ye are the children of God, the sharers of immortal bliss, holy and perfect beings. Ye divinities on earth, sinners! It is a sin to call man so.
The New York Herald wrote,
Vivekananda is undoubtedly the greatest figure in the Parliament of Religions. After hearing him, we feel how foolish it is to send missionaries to this learned nation.
Swamiji's words reflected his direct experience of the divine and thus penetrated deep into the minds of his audience.